on Monday. Physical therapy.
And once that starts, you want to close that out and then go back to
Raise
the.
up, push
Okay.
down.
Yeah.
Exciting stuff.
So your level of pain is going down. So
Yeah, the first week I went.
Yep, now close that out.
It's
Yep,
all part of the process.
yeah.
and now go back to your Zoom meeting. And then you're good to go. We're live.
Call the meeting to order, but before we get to anything going, I want to open for public comments, participants. They can join in the Zoom meeting and to dial either of the numbers 1-312-626-6799 or 1-648-558-8656. Enter the meeting ID 977-6119-6006. Then press number and then number again. And if your line is muted, press *6 to unmute. Okay, and with that, we'll have opening prayer by Commissioner Wyatt, and then I'll have pledge it to the flag.
Almighty Lord God, we thank you for the opportunity to come together once again to administer the governance of this county. We've been entrusted to do what's right for the citizens of this county. We ask and pray that you would give us the guidance necessary to carry out these duties. And may glory to your name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call, vote, please.
District 1, Commissioner Dean Dees. District 2, Commissioner Gary Gilliland.
Here.
District 3, Commissioner Joe Omar.
Here.
District 5, Commissioner Joel Wyatt.
Here.
District 4, Chairman Bob Conrad.
Here. Any additions or corrections, deletions to the agenda? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
Motion made by Commissioner Dean, supported by Commissioner Healy. The agenda as is. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Any corrections to the minutes?
Minor correction, page 112 of the minutes. At the top, it just says that I was present and I was absent. Everywhere else, it seems to indicate correctly, unless I'm reading it wrong.
That was what they, that's what they said.
Within the motions, though, for the voting, it says I'm absent, so meat of it's correct.
Yeah, because that's what they provided that Jody just popped into the board packet. But on the roll call on the back of the motion,
Right,
shows
it
that
was correct.
you're absent.
Any other corrections or?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting with a notation by Commissioner White.
Or
Motion made by Commissioner Healy, supported by Commissioner Wyatt. Any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Correspondence, petitions, introductions, that's your blue sheet there. You can get a hold of Jody's gone this week, so Tara, we can get them for you. Commissioners report. Commissioner White. Commissioner O'Meara.
Let's see, Port Sound like they, or CFA put in its application for the first responder $1,000 hazard pay, so that's good. That's 20 guys that are gonna get some money there. attended the health board meeting. You know, COVID is still out there running strong. There's no vaccine in sight until maybe November, December. With the rollout, you know, there'll be a priority rollout when the vaccine comes in, teachers and, you know, healthcare workers and that. So it's still real. And the cases that are coming out are as a result of like college, you know, after school get-togethers, you know, people meeting up at bars, weddings and stuff like that, where you kind of, people let their guard down a little bit. So that's where most of the cases are coming from. I mean, that's about it.
Commissioner Healy?
I have none. I spent my last week and a half on the couch flexing my leg, and thank you for the people from the courthouse that sent get well cards. We're on the mend. And the walker works good.
Mr. Dean?
At the community mental health meeting, board meeting last Tuesday, brief meeting, but we honored our outgoing finance director, Eric Eggert, who's retired after many years there and was a real mainstay of financial stability for that organization for many years and had guided them through the construction of their new building and many other consolidations of efforts and programs to create greater efficiency there. And I see the appointment of his replacement, Tony, to the community mental health representative to the pension board is on our agenda for today. So I guess on a personal note, the Deckable School started yesterday in live in-person school, and we're very pleased after 2 days how well it's gone. Very good cooperation from the kids. Obviously some apprehension over what's going on. We're hoping the steps we've taken keeps everyone safe and we can continue with the pathway we're going.
Okay, when I was at Elk Township's meeting, they said that they had a firefighters grant funding opportunity and was approved in the amount of $86,666.67. That was in federal funding. So that was a good point for them.
Was that part of that stimulus, Tara, that they had to sign up for and fill out paperwork for, do you know?
They did fill out some paperwork for it, but I don't know where it originated from.
Oh, good. That's good.
But that's quite a chunk of money to help their firefighters.
Sure.
Administrators report.
All right, well, just a few things that we've been able to shore up with regard to the 2020 budget and potential revenue reductions and how those will potentially impact our 2021 budget. So I want to share this with you. Thank you. So we discussed this during our department manager meeting this morning. As you know, we're working on the
Oh, sorry.
first few.
I knew that too.
We're working
Wrapped up in a
on
moment.
our compilation of the 2021 budgets. Everything was due last Friday. So we pretty much have all of our general fund budget
Sorry about that.
ready. We're just working on revenue projections for 2021. But just to kind of mention, sorry, I'm going to take this off for a minute. We have some known revenue losses with regard to our 2020 budget. So one of the big ticket pieces is our state revenue sharing. I know I had discussed that the August payment would be replaced with CARES Act funding. Now, as you know, that CARES Act funding is extremely restricted. So even though it's coming back to us, there's limited items that we're able to spend that on. The state is indicating that we could spend the CARES Act funding on our public safety payroll expenses. So we're looking into that to find out just how much we can use to offset that revenue. And then in addition, we found out that we will be losing some of our bed rental income. And this is related to, obviously, the federal inmates. They've released individuals. Their facilities are low. So they've pulled back individuals from our facility, which has decreased our number of rented beds.
Is this the forecast here?
It is, yes. So typically we're around 83 inmates per day. We're down to about 63. So as you can see on that spreadsheet that you have from the sheriff's office, That's between a $300,000 to $500,000 hit this year to our budget. So what I passed out to you was just regarding a budget amendment. What I'm proposing we do, since we know we're losing about 620,000, I did estimate the bed rental revenue to be about a $400,000 hit. That was the medium road, but again, I just had a conversation with Commissioner O'Meara, and he's thinking maybe we should omit the 500,000 so we don't have to revisit this potentially again this year. So with that being said, we have a variance of about between 620 and 720,000 right now. And this is again the snapshot. Obviously, it's going to change as we continue to move through this. But I do have some suggested items that we could omit from our budget to amend it moving forward. As you know, we did budget for an additional principal payment on the jail debt bond. That was about 180,000. We typically don't pay that until November. So my recommendation would be that we omit that additional principal payment. In addition, we were able to build up our contingency, and that was
How much was that again? I don't know.
180,000. Yeah. We've been able to build up our contingency a little bit this year through our furlough program that we offered, and then just discretionary spending that we've been able to scale out of departments' budgets. So we could take 285,000 from the contingency. And then in addition, we received a local community stabilization payment back in May. Now, typically we don't budget for that because we've always been told that money is going to go away, and it is tied to our the state sales tax revenue. So I don't know if we'll see another one. Sometimes we receive one in October, but again, that's questionable this year. But we could add that receipt into the budget to basically make up for the lost known revenues, if you will.
So Terry, the community stabilization receipt,
Yeah,
that was received in May,
it was.
but it was not part of the budget.
No, typically we don't budget for that, only because its receipt is unknown.
Yeah. What was the previous year's receipts from that?
Last year, we actually received an October payment as well. So it was higher than, typically it's, I think, around 150 in May, and then last October, I think we received more if I remember correctly. But I still don't know if that's coming in.
What are the parameters for guesswork on whether you get it or not? I mean, how does that?
Well, I did reach out to other county administrators, and it is based on the state sales tax revenue. So,
I don't know if you know, but people have been buying stuff like crazy.
okay, that's
So if it's
good.
based on that, it's gonna be really good. Now, they're gonna
Okay.
maybe default on a lot of payments next year, but if you look at any of the power sports, the tractors, the boats, they're gone.
Well, and it is potential that we'll see it come in October, but again, we don't normally plan on it. If it comes in, we can amend our budget again. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts in this budget. And there's still a lot of unknowns as we move through this. But I think it's important to identify what we do know. We are seeing some lost revenues here. So I feel we should amend the budget to reflect these potential reductions.
Terry, this revenue sharing reduction you're anticipating, that would be our fourth quarter, which is the state's first quarter. You're
Wow.
anticipating nothing in that fourth
This-
quarter? Or?
The state actually pays bi-monthly. So this is specifically our August payment, but for the remainder of our fiscal year, we still have an October payment
Yes.
and a December payment that we don't know what's going to happen with those payments. So August typically is higher than the other bi-monthly payments, but the state has omitted it completely. And in return, they're giving us CARES Act funding.
Yeah, which that with the supplanting of other expenses with that CARES Act money should compensate us for that.
Well, but we have to be careful because we can only spend that on certain items, and it has to be kept track of obviously really well because I believe this will be our single audit this year. So we just want to make sure that what we're spending it on is proper. And the state did mention we could utilize it for our public safety payrolls, but I don't know yet if it's dollar for dollar. Like say we wanted to use it for the whole month of March. I don't know if we have to have some justification that it was COVID related. that we need more guidance on at this point.
I would think they'd be pretty flexible. I'm hoping on that.
I would hope so.
As Commissioner Wyatt pointed out, the most recent revenue projection for the state's a lot more encouraging than it was earlier
Yes.
because of sales tax revenue going up.
And I think, we're able to balance out our budget. We can remove these reductions to the revenue. We have some options here to make our budget balanced again for 2020. But just keep in mind that this will change how our carryover is at the end of 2020 because, obviously, a lot of our expenses are what I consider fixed. It's basically half of our budget is payroll-related expenses. The other larger part is expenses that we can't really do without, like our liability coverage, our workers' compensation. Those big ticket items are healthcare expenses that you can't really just up and remove those from the budget. So we're working with such a small pool of expenses that we have a little bit of wiggle room with. So it's difficult when the revenues are varying so much, but we don't have a lot of room to vary in our expenses right now.
Well, it's better to plan conservatively and then be surprised
Yes.
later pleasantly. if
Well,
things go-
exactly. And I do envision 2021 is going to be a moving piece, if you will. We're going to have to amend the budget as we learn more information. So
I would agree with Dan, but also add that that's exactly what we did in the spring was plan conservatively and moved forward tentatively with expenditures. Now, you mentioned back then in spring or beginning of summer, exactly what you said now, which was, we're not sure what we can spend it on. We don't know what's going to be reimbursed. When are we going to have some word on this?
Well, I did speak to our auditors, so she is working with it's MGFOA, so it's the Finance Officers Association, the Government Finance Officers Association, and they're working with the state to come up with some good parameters on what's allowable.
So everyone's in the same boat in terms of waiting to find out what.
Yes,
they can
and a lot of
qualify
counties
for.
are concerned because they're getting this influx of CARES Act funding, but if they haven't had a major breakout or outbreak or had a lot of expenses associated with combating COVID, what do you spend this on? And fortunately, we're one of those counties that we've been able to, we've had minimal expenses relating to combating the COVID, whether it's the plexiglass, the increased cleaning, extra cleaning supplies, the PPE, it's relatively minimal.
Yeah.
Like when you start looking at all this CARES Act funding that's
So-
coming our way.
At this point, they've given us no timeline.
Well, if it has to be used by the end of the year. So if we can use it for all of our payroll, if I can look at our corrections officers, our deputies, our dispatch, if we can use it to cover their wages for their whole shift for 3 months, we're fine. But
So
I don't have that clarification just
Yeah,
yet.
falls under public safety. then.
Yeah, they're public safety, but is it a percentage of their job or could it be up to 100% of their job? So that's what we need to.
when we talk about conservatively, what I'm hearing you say is that we could actually ask for the funding, receive it, and then find out that we're on the hook to pay it back because it
Right.
didn't meet those.
Yes, so I want to get all of our answers, obviously, because I don't want them to come back with their hand out and say, you owe us some money.
But there is an element that quite often when you stand in line to receive the handouts, anticipating that you may not be proper to receive them,
Mhm.
you're never asked to reimburse them. The threat's there, but it never actually makes good on it.
Right, and
I imagine there could be some communities that are doing exactly that.
well, this is such a large piece of our revenue, or it appears that it will be for this year. So this will be our single audit. Last year, it was the Warren Township Sewer Project, but we know that's winding down. So it looks like this will be our largest federal revenue, if you will.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we're on top of this, obviously, because it will be audited, so.
Well, it reminds me of what Commissioner O'Mara was referencing earlier with the fire funding, right? Was, there was a question on whether or not if you spent in advance, whether you would be reimbursed and versus whether you had to actually, wait for that funding to come around. Is there a way in which you can apply for the funding, receive it, and set it aside? You can earmark it for certain particular things, set it aside in case we do run afoul of some misunderstanding.
Well, we've applied for a portion of the CARES Act funding through the payroll reimbursement. And I did utilize all of our payroll expenditures for 2 months for all of our public safety. It comes to about 600,000. That's a rough figure. Whether or not we'll get that dollar for dollar, I don't know, because I don't know what other counties submitted and there's only so much to go around. But being that it was based off of those expenditures, will they allow those expenditures to be towards the grant, to be allowable, if you will? So that's, we'll have more information unfold with this. As I said, new information becomes available every day. It changes every day, but we do know we're looking at some substantial revenue adjustments, and I do feel that we should do a budget amendment to correct at least what we know moving forward.
There's a couple other points too that are soft, like, drug task force and the Council on Aging, they don't pay their allocated expenses. And I think drug task force doesn't pay 80. It's about 80. Every year they don't pay. And then the Council on Aging, they skip out of
pay
30.
They're gonna pay the same amount over the next 3 years.
Then, everyone else pays their full share. Why do these two groups not? I can't go into Walmart and just go in and take some milk and
I
say,
agree, they want the services.
I'll give you 25 cents. That's,
Yeah.
I gotta.
So what is the reason that's not happening?
Well, we've worked with
They
the
won't pay
different
it.
organizations and we've come up with an agreeable amount, if you will, based on the length of the millage.
Then we had to do that with each one of them.
Yeah.
Separate,
They just don't pay.
we did it separately with each one, yeah.
With Parks and Board and,
Yeah.
EGF and,
But are we gonna look at, the real value of some of the services that we're contracting for, like MSU Extension? And are we gonna do anything about the second floor only working 35 hours a week? We should fund a 40-hour week, not a 35-hour week.
yeah, I think those are all things we gotta take a look at.
Yeah.
And I know we do have our first budget committee meeting on September 15th. So my intent is to provide a balanced budget, and I can list what was omitted to get it to balance, and then we'd have at least a starting point.
Yeah.
So we can determine what has to stay in the budget and what has to be omitted.
What was this,
Otherwise-
just to follow up what you said, not just those areas, we've gotta look at everything.
Yeah.
We've gotta be very prudent at what we're doing.
I agree.
Because this thing could go south in a hurry if things at the government level and state level go south.
What was the mechanism by which the agreement was made with those two particular millage-funded departments to just extend this?
Well,
On whose authority was that?
we did hold meetings. I sat with Chairman Conley and Commissioner Heberling, and we had meetings together to try to work out an agreement to get us through the remainder of the millage.
Uh-huh.
Because those ones, I think, felt they had such a substantial increase that they wanted to attempt to negotiate a different rate, lock in at that, and then it could be reviewed at the end of their.
I tried to explain it, Commissioner Wyatt, in the past, as you know, most of you sitting here as commissioners know, that we really never were able to, no, let me rephrase that. We never took advantage of the full amount we could get back, okay? And before Tara's time, before Christie's time, there was other people in that office that just wrote down what they should owe and they sent it in and they paid it. Last year about this time, maybe a little bit sooner, realized it was a very big shortfall that we weren't getting. So, and I think we've all talked about this. When we put the actual cost out there, what they should be paying, there was a lot of pushback. So we went back and negotiated with Parks and Board. I'm on the DTF committee. And I believe at that point in time, was 34,000 something they should pay a year. And then it got pretty heated in the meeting because I'm part of that committee. So we looked at what we could do long-term we thought was fair. I'm just talking this one committee, all right?
Yeah.
What would be fair long-term and put it in there budget for 3 years down the road. So it was fair to them knowing what their allocation was gonna be for the next 3 years. So that's where the 30,000 come out for the DTF.
I guess, but what I hear you saying is there isn't like the amount, for example, you said 30,000, let's say they owed 60, that's a 30,000 deficit. Because the following year, they would owe roughly around the same amount the following year. So there's a cumulative effect of 90,000 plus that we're running short of. And I'm not sure that that's the right thing to do because as you said, the other agencies had to pay their fair share.
Yeah, but keep in mind, maybe the next year could be 25,000.
Perhaps, but notwithstanding the fact that the drug.
Looked at the history.
The Parks and Recs, they all have a healthy bottom line in savings.
Oh, yeah.
In a variety of ways of having cash. I don't understand. I mean, it's not like you're taking money that they don't have, and it's not that you're taking it. This is expenditures that are.
Yeah.
During the course of these conversations, though, there were some disagreements over services provided and whether they were providing their own services, and then getting billed for that service from the county level as well. So there were some legitimate.
But that wouldn't adjust the bottom line.
When they laid out certain areas where they.
Wouldn't extend a debt and cancel a debt that's legitimate. And what I'm hearing is that in a sense, a debt was canceled. That was legitimate, no argument about it.
Yep.
Some of it was reconfigured because it wasn't actually a legitimate debt, but the legitimate debt's being wiped clean. It seems like moving forward for several years.
Sometimes there were different interpretations of what was a legitimate debt, they were seeing it differently, but the real issue was that in the past, when the report came back, the board would routinely lower it quite a bit. So they never got a big increase in 1 year. Last year, the report came back, we just went with it. And that created an enormous backlash.
But other agencies experienced the very same thing and they had a less deep pocketbook in which to pay that out of than I think the Drug Task Force or the Parks and Rec. They didn't have as much to work with, and yet they did so.
Yeah.
Overall, their numbers might have been less,
But
but
much more, yeah.
representative of what they had.
And that's why we hired that firm to come in and take a look at the allocation method to make sure it's fair and objective. And they've been doing that for years.
Yeah. Well, again, a little history on that is the firm has to come in to do the calculation mainly for court reimbursement from the state.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay, but they do the whole organization. In some counties, they only use it for court reimbursement purposes and no other agencies get billed at all. We've taken a different approach here. And again, it was a large increase last year that caused the backlash that led to the discussions and the compromises that were made.
It just speaks to me of like big business that's got deep pockets complain about taxes, but the little guy with the little pockets has to pay the full share. And it just don't seem right. And I don't know, is that a fair analogy there? That's the way it feels?
I don't know. I think it's like walking into the store and just grabbing,
Even worse, right?
some milk and saying, I'm not paying you.
Well, I mean, there's no argument here that they owe it. It's just a question of that they didn't expect such a large debt to be incurred and they don't want to pay it. And I don't agree with
I agree with both you and Joe. And our intent is to make it workable for this year, next year, maybe, with all the departments. At the end of that 3 years, we go with what the real cost was. But again, I agree. You walk into Walmart, you're going to pay the full amount. It's not negotiable. I get that.
Yeah.
But it was
This
such
was
a large
unexpected too.
increase. What's
as
that?
much as their debt legitimate was unexpected, in a sense, so was this.
Yeah.
Because in reality, it should have never been unexpected because they knew they weren't being charged the full rate.
Oh, I think they all knew.
Of course. So they had to have known one day the piper needs to be paid. And then when they did, they said, well, how do we know?
Forever, cost allocation has been a touchy subject.
I'm sure, like a lot of other things too.
Then they can do their own payroll and process their own accounts payable, because there's a lot of effort that goes into supporting them. And all that stuff wouldn't get done unless the crew was doing their job, and it costs money to have this administration.
And
supporting
like
everybody.
Dan said, there was a few things we had to pull back that we probably shouldn't have charged for, but there was some actual things like working on the millages and things, helping them with that. Those are real things, you know, so.
If we're amending the budget in terms of the county going forward in the application of the different receipts coming in and whatnot, why don't we consider amending that particular aspect of the budget
Yeah,
right here and right now?
yeah. I mean, because, DTF has over $1 million in cash. They have investments of over $1 million. I mean, they got a lot of money. And typically the government, you spend what you get what you need for the year. You don't get excess money and invest it. As a taxpayer, I'd rather have my money. I'd rather invest my money than give it to DTF and let them invest it.
I don't necessarily disagree, and I'm okay looking at amending it. However, like with the drug task force, we've already approved that. Now to go back and say, yeah, we're gonna change that and make an amendment. So
I think as we address the 2021 budget, that would be the appropriate time to revisit this if we're going to.
Well, we approved the 2020 budget for the county and we're amending it.
But that's necessary, but I think for the greater good, in view of all the issues and sub-issues that relate to this, that as we look at the 2021 budget, we have to take another look.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do to become more efficient and,
How about we have a motion today, consider as a fair warning that the 21 budget will include complete and full payment of the, calculated costs that they're liable for, with no deferment and no.
I think if we've already made a commitment, whether verbally or officially, to let that number ride to the extension of their millage or conclusion of their millage, it'd be hard to retract that. And I would want to preempt the budget process, which begins in 2 weeks with our first budget committee meeting.
well,
I mean, I think it's one of those things that we can lay on the table at that time. I'm not sure we want to jump into it prematurely.
Joe, I guess
Yeah.
I just want to say this from a personal standpoint, me. It's the way I was raised. When you make a deal and shake a hand with somebody and give a promise, that's a deal. I personally, I've made a deal, and Terry did, and Bob, we hashed that over for a long time. We made a deal. It wasn't a sweet deal for us. It wasn't a sweet deal for them. We both went away kind of like kissing your cousin. But now to go back and break that deal, I personally don't want to do that, because people are going to lose faith in me personally.
Well,
I represented the Board of Commissioners.
I was in the meeting when we were discussing the allocations and the issues came up, and I never knew about any deals, and that's
nor
why that's why when I was helping Christie out when we were back in April and May, I noticed these items had been reversed out, and I wasn't aware that there was a deal.
Well, actually, the DTL.
I would.
End of July, I believe.
End of July, that's just like a month ago.
It took that long to get it.
Yeah, and Parks just recently
Just
approved their payments as well.
So the last I knew, when we were talking about it, was there was discussions with them about how it was going to happen, but nothing came up that said, here's what we have on the table. We're about to agree to some 3-year binding argument, which is what you seem to be suggesting that has been done, and that it won't be revisited until the end of the millage. And I don't recall that being a conversation that we had.
Wasn't.
In fact, what we're saying right now about them paying their share was said all along during this period of time through the spring and summer when that topic came up. And let's be honest, we don't meet that frequently. We don't have that many conversations just because about those specific subjects. It's easy to lose track in light of COVID and all the rest of the stuff that's going on.
We've been
But
working
can I just say one more thing, and I promise I'll be quiet. When we finish up with the DTF in that meeting, we thought it was the best interest of the Board of Commissioners, the county, and with the DTF projecting that payment the same for 3 years, because then you knew what your budget was going to be for that payment each year. And quite frankly, I think if you average it out over 3 years, we're not off very little, because it could have went up, it could have come down, and based on past history. So there was a lot of thought put into it. So I'm done. That's
I don't doubt that's the case, but by your statement, there being fluctuation in the payment or the bill that's owed necessarily. That would mean it would be the same amount of difficulty to budget for it, to anticipate for it, whether or not they paid the full rate or they didn't, because the following year could be different, if what I understand that you're saying is true. So as it stands right now, are we absolutely precluded from amending their, what is it, debt essentially for the 2021 budget year? Have you signed into some type of agreement or promise that extends to the end of their millages? Or is this something we can bring up in 2021? As you, I think you said something
Well,
like that.
I think the total unpaid is over 100,000, right?
If
Is it
you're
80 or
looking,
100 or
you might be looking at what we accrued for at the end of the year and then what.
we had to reverse
actually-
out
Mhm.
because you get, hey, that was 100, wasn't it?
Right, I don't know if it's that much.
But
It was like 80 or
I
100.
think the amount was paid subsequently.
Significant.
Yeah,
But it's more than we've had
Yes,
in the past.
I guess,
Yeah.
Joe, I guess one approach you might suggest here would be that, if the board want to set a goal that we're going to reach a point where the cost allocation is paid based on the study, no exceptions, that might be a goal to aim for. I think though we could do that in the spirit of still honoring any compromises that were made this year that were handled administratively. I trust the judgment of our county administrator, our chairman, our finance chairman to have arrived at conclusions that I think were in the best interest of the county and avoided further animosity on this issue. But I think the board, perhaps during the budget process, could send a clear signal that, okay, we'll honor the agreements that have been made, but we're at a point going to reach the goal of implementation of the report as it's presented.
Dan, regarding, and Gary, regarding the hard and fast rule that was set for the rest of the millages and the rest of the cost allocation, was it hard and fast and that there was movement in these three, or was there some movement available for all of them to plead their case? Because I remember vaguely there was, but if I
Yeah, there was.
correctly, you said some just paid, they just right up paid.
Shannon always thinks.
There was only one.
There were certain departments that were adjusted down quite significantly, and we honestly didn't know why. So when we sent out the bills last year, the intent was to bill as was stated in the cost allocation. It did start some dialogue, which, might have been a little heated, but in all honesty, I think it needed to happen. I mean, it was time to really look into that process. I think we've come leaps and bounds with the agreements that we have. I think, Gary, you had mentioned we tried to meet in the middle a little bit because we knew it was a sticker shock to see.
I remember those
In the
conversations.
past, and then, what we initially invoiced and then what we met on, I think was a nice compromise, if you will. And if it locks us in for the duration of this millage cycle, I think we're keeping our word as far as what we indicated would be acceptable. But I do think Commissioner Dean has a good point that moving forward, we should invoice as it's stated in the cost allocation plan. But we did try to work to get everyone on board, and that wasn't necessarily an easy process. We've been
No, it
paying
wasn't.
since December, and I believe it came out of the direction of the board, but I can check meeting minutes. I know we had a discussion. We ran into COVID issues, so we were a little bit delayed. But for the most part, I think we've come quite far in this process so far.
Yeah, one of the big concerns that they had is they didn't know what to budget for because they didn't get that when they supposed to put.
Until November.
One-time thing.
So if we talk to them about, okay, for this period of the millage, they know what it's gonna be. And that seemed to work a little better, and several of them stepped up to that. And I think overall, we made some good improvements on that.
And also too, we did improve our timeline with our cost allocation. We're actually reviewing it right now. So we should
Well-
have a final report here within the next couple of weeks.
That's all well and good, but I can tell you, as Joe said earlier about going in and walking out with goods, there's a table saw I had my eye on for a couple of years now, and it was $400 2 years ago, and now it's $700. And I don't have the opportunity to go in there and say, hey, look, I got the 400 now, you gotta cut me a break and, let me, walk away with the other 300. I mean, that's the cost of that saw right now. And because conditions changed and whatever the reasons are. And this, when we're looking at this, which is what this started for, conditions changed.
Yeah,
A lot has happened in the last 6 months.
they're getting their payroll processed, their accounts payable are getting processed, everything's getting processed, and it's a fairly steady stream of recurring transactions. So the predictability of this and knowing that you're getting a deal, it's always, there haven't been any surprises. It's just all of a sudden they got the bill. That's all.
I think we're, based off what we've agreed on, we probably just the highest amount we've taken in over the years, so by far.
Well, when you look at it like that, I would agree with you and
I
I
get what
would be
you're saying.
grateful for that. But if I was part of, like, say, for example, Shannon's representation, it's like, why am I paying full price? Why don't I plead poverty or whatever you can plead, Because
Yeah.
it was a steep jump for everybody. They all had their percentages they had to jump up. It just doesn't, it seems biased for those groups that, but the squeaky wheel gets the grease. It's the first to be replaced. Whatever that means.
That's true.
Okay,
Well, I have
Drive it
nothing
till the
else
wheels
in
fall
my
off.
report unless anyone has further questions.
Thank you, Tara.
Thanks.
Well,
okay.
no. Never condemn a man till you walk in his shoes and then don't condemn him even after that. So we tried to take with what we had and make the best of it at this time and move forward to make it a better
And we have.
idea.
I
Okay,
know that you guys negotiated to the best of your ability, and I can appreciate all the things that you had to deal with. I mean, because it's more than just numbers. It's people, it's
Personality.
personalities, it's, having the job at hand being effective because your morale is high or destroyed. So I get it. I get it.
And I do, and I appreciate both you and Joe's input. It's correct.
and if you look at the people over the years, 10 years, last 10 years or so, it was right here. And they were never, changed. Then all of a sudden it comes up here. That's why we had to meet with them and talk to them and work something out for this period and then go from there.
But Joel, with that table saw, just go to one of the big boxes, do the project, and then return it.
Oh,
That gets done all the time, yeah.
Friendly neighbor that
Yeah.
you didn't know was
all
there.
right, yeah.
Full
Okay.
refund, full refund, or store credit.
Public comments, agenda items only. Shannon, you got a presentation of Veterans Affairs for 2019 annual report.
So I dropped off copies, hoping you all had a chance to review, so I don't have to go page by page and I just like to hit a couple of key points that I thought I wanted to mention. The population in San Juan County for fiscal year 19 for veterans was 2,653. We've been steadily decreasing in our population of veterans over the past several years. So for fiscal year 19, it was a decrease from 93 veterans from the previous fiscal year.
Do you reach out to these people and ask them why, or, I mean, is there any feedback on those?
We get them from the federal VA, so.
Oh, okay.
The VA paid out in fiscal year 19, $12,138,000 to veterans in San Juan County. That money comes from VA compensation and pension benefits that is paid directly to veterans, their VA education benefits, and then VA insurance payments. That number increased from fiscal year 18 by $294,982. So nice jump in money coming into the county from one year to the next. Our transportation program, and we now have 2 vehicles. We're now getting up and rolling again and on the road most days of the week, sometimes both of those vehicles on the road. Last year, we transported 351 different veterans to their appointments. We are doing the VA medical centers, and then we also now transport to outside facilities. The VA has a new program where they will pay for and approve veterans to seek outside care. So we started transporting veterans to those appointments as well. And then last thing I want to mention is our Soldiers Relief Fund. It provides emergency assistance grants to wartime veterans. Last year, we provided grants paying a total of $47,808.04 to Sanilac County veterans for different types of assistance. So that's what I wanted to note to you. If you have any questions on what you looked through.
It's nice to help them out with grants, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's a very nice program to have.
Very appreciative.
Decrease in the amount of veterans here in Sanilac County, but an increase in the expenditures. What
It's me doing
drives
my
that?
job, getting those claims approved.
Is that what it is?
It is. Yeah, just more money coming into the county veterans. Yeah.
Well, what does that mean for the previous year?
Well, it jumps over. If you can see, I have, now the previous fiscal year.
I mean, it's different services being rendered, so you have.
The amount of money in that number
Into the,
is compensation and pension benefits, the amount the DA pays for GI or education benefits, and then the amount of money paid out in insurance benefits to veterans.
So you could
That's
have some
standard.
people not taking advantage of their education fund, right? Or
Correct.
not using health services or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
The VA is really tough to deal with in most other jurisdictions. I have a personal story. I went around and around and around and around. Finally came to Shannon and everything just can't happen. Boom, she got it done. Does a much better job than people in Ann Arbor, Dearborn,
Really?
Detroit. Much better job.
So she's interacting with the federal component, right? You're just really effective at what you do. Well done.
Yeah.
Okay.
And reaching the veterans is a
Outstanding.
huge thing. So when you see lots of advertisement expenses for my office, veterans don't know we're here, even in small Sanilac County, Michigan. I still got veterans, Vietnam, Korean veterans every day that walk in my office and have no clue.
Yeah.
The past few days, I don't know if you guys seen on Facebook, there was $300 Meyer vouchers to all veterans. So that has kicked up, our phone calls are going through the roof. It wasn't legit. It's through the emergency assistance funds. They have to apply for and get those. One county had gotten Meyer vouchers for that specific thing. But even that wrong information brings veterans calling our office. So then when we start talking to them and go through, you could be eligible for this, this, and this, and getting them benefits from, misinformation. But we have to just get the word out there. And
Yeah, I mean, I went into the VA in Ann Arbor and they just said, no, 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 no. Here's the situation. Here are the qualifications. Here's the guy. Here's the discharge, blah, blah, blah. No, 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 no. I did that my dad didn't finally get it until he was 88. Only for a few months did he get the benefits.
What's
Okay,
go ahead.
go.
What's a unique patient?
where are you at?
I'm on 10.
hey, Shannon?
Those are the patients that they contend are utilizing VA medical center services currently. So they say the 1,012 veterans in Sanilac County are using VA medical center benefits. So less than half.
Have you had increased use of the extra vehicle? It was an extra vehicle, right?
Yeah, but second traverse.
Yeah.
Yes,
And you put on another driver? I don't remember.
we have 3 drivers. I just had actually one that quit and went for a full-time teaching job. So I'll be coming to you in a little while for a new contract.
Oh, really?
Just because,
Didn't we just raise the pay of one of them or 2 of them to equals, there was,
we did at $12 an hour. But
Yeah,
You went from 10 to 12.
a full-time teaching job with benefits compared to $12 an hour contractually.
sure.
I can see
Oh,
the move, but
There's an opening, Joe.
Yeah,
yes, like to drive?
yeah, sure. I love to drive. Not like Gary though. Gary loves to drive.
I do a lot.
Okay, any other questions to Shannon?
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
All right,
Shannon.
thanks, guys.
I have to vote myself a big raise though, Joe.
No appointments to standing committees that I'm aware of. Pension Board, partial 3-year term expiring 5/1/21.
Tony Shaver.
Tony Shaver on the back of your thing, he's got a letter that he sent.
That's the only one that's applied, right?
Yes.
And he's the only one that applied and you need one.
Do these have to be public invitations for these appointments? Because the health board has.
Yeah, the community mental health has their own position on the
Right.
pension board, so.
Right.
Eric Eggert was the finance director and he held this position. He has retired. Tony is his replacement at community mental health. So I guess logically, as the finance director, he would just slide into the pension position that Eric had before. That's what this is.
So what, this was posted?
Does the health board have to advertise?
Or no?
Okay, are they going to do that?
Mental health, within, I don't know if they posted internally.
Well, I would imagine if it's coming to us, it
Yeah.
would be required for it to be a public posted position.
I don't know if they would, what internal posting they would have done at community mental health on this. Well, I'm sure they followed the policy. They're very diligent about that.
Yeah.
I believe the pension's unique and then that you have to be a member. So you wouldn't really advertise this publicly because people may not be.
It would be internal at the health or the,
Medical.
but it would be available for anybody there from the mop jockey to the CFO.
Correct.
Anyone who's participating in the.
It'd have to be in the pension plan.
Is that the case though? Was it actually publicized in such a manner? Because like you just said, it would make sense. I think you said that to slide into that position. And I get how that works, but you know, maybe the mop jockey would like a shot at being on the.
And then it was a contested vote when Eric got it a couple of years ago. There were other employees over there who did apply for it. So I'm assuming this was posted there, but I can't say that I saw the posting personally.
Because I assume what we're having here is a vote that actually puts that guy in that position.
Correct.
So we have some responsibility.
Fills
to
out,
make sure that.
it fills out the term that was appointed earlier.
Right. So Tara, does that seem reasonable that we get confirmation that, yeah, this was a posted position, or are they just letting?
We could. I would assume it was posted. Typically, that's what
Can we
happens.
table this and call Will in the
Well-
meantime and find?
When's the next pension board meeting? Of, so we probably want to fill it.
Next
but
Thursday.
I think we have to trust that they followed their procedures and policies and.
Christie just.
Well, that's what I'm asking is that a policy? Is that you said based in the previous time there was a contested?
Correct.
Yeah.
Christie just confirmed it was posted at CMA.
It was.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So in that event, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we confirm the appointment of Tony Shaver to the Community Mental Health Board.
Support.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Dean, supported by Commissioner Wyatt, that we appoint Tony Shaver. Any comments, discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion carried to appoint Tony Shaver, 3-year term. County Commissioner appointments to boards, I have none. County Commissioner Chair appointments, none. General resolutions. Any committee reports? I don't think there's any unfinished business. Under new business, finance and administration.
Yep. Tara told us that. Thank you.
FA 10120, approval of 2020 current claims.
The Sinai County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2020 identified in the accounts payable report dated August 25th, 2020 for the general bank account, the amount of $92,223.51.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Hebron, supported by Commissioner Dean. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Motion carried. FA 10220, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
The Sinai County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following amendments and establishes the following accounts, which is detailed on page 3 and over on page 4.
I have support.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Hebron, supported by Commissioner Dean. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. FA 103-20, approval of life skills agreement.
The Sinai County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the current professional counseling Center Life Skills Agreement for the fiscal year of 2020 at the cost of not to exceed $90,000 and further authorize the board chairman sign the necessary agreement.
And support.
Support.
Motion made by Commissioner Heveling, somewhat supported by Commissioner O'Meara. Any discussion?
Yes. Could one of you give me a brief summary of what this was? I read the minutes, but
This is basically
It's an
every
annual.
year to re-up the contract, and that they had actually come back and asked for an additional
25,000.
25,000, and based off what our budget could be for 2020, we said at this time we weren't in favor of advancing the budget 25,000, but looking at approving a continued budget next year.
did they say they had additional services that they had already given and that they expect more in the future? Is that why, or?
They were having a COVID blip. And, they're the ones that go out to the families and try to keep the kids in the families. And we're paying $43 a unit, which includes travel and all that for that function.
I heard.
They burn up about 2,000 hours a year. This year, they
Are you taking paid
500.
Really?
So they wanted,
They can write to
they
like,
thought that
You need one right now?
that
no, I
pattern would continue. So we just said that.
Sure.
They want to hire.
Oh,
We can deal with it when it does happen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
COVID's not gonna last forever, though it seems like it.
yeah,
Thank you, Gary.
Doesn't it?
November 3rd.
November 3rd,
Yeah.
COVID's going away?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did I say who? Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Okay. No more discussion. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Oppose the same. Motion carried. FA 104-20, approval of section 5339, buses and bus facilities.
The Sunlight County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the FY 2017, FY 2008, and 2020 sections 5339 buses and bus facility formula program, and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary documents.
A motion by Commissioner Heberlin, support by Commissioner Dean. Any discussion?
And that would have been, was this from the Sand Lake Board of Transportation?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Does this have to do with the emails about the
Yes.
additional signing that?
Yeah.
Time? Okay, got it. Thank you. I didn't see that number 5339 in those emails referencing the extension.
I know that Mr. Hall had worked with somebody new. It took a little bit longer, and Bob and Terry jumped in and made it quicker. So.
Yeah, well, you've been on that board before. They're having trouble finding people to ride. This has been a tough season for them, for sure.
People are hunkered down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The elderly people, they're very nervous.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same. Motion carried. FA 105-20, adoption of 2020 millage rate.
The Sunlight County Board of Commissioners hereby adopts the 2020 final millage rates for the Sunlight County as follow, and further authorize the Board of Chairmen sign the necessary documents.
Motion made by Commissioner Heberlin, supported by Commissioner Dean. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose the same. Motion carried. NFA 02620, accepting the 2019 annual report, vetting Veterans Affairs, and we just heard that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and read. The Sunlight County Board of Commissioners hereby accept the 2019 Veterans Affairs Annual Report as presented by Shannon.
With support?
Support.
Motion made by Gary Haven, supported by Commissioner O'Meara. I mean, Commissioner Haven. I said Gary didn't.
We're good. We're good.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same. Motion carried. Okay, any public comments?
We do have someone on the line. This is moving. So, do we have anyone who wants to participate in public comment? I see someone called in. There's someone out there with 642,000, so I'm assuming maybe.
2,000.
The sheriff's department.
Just Nate, I'm over here waiting for finance to start, so.
Oh, perfect.
Oh,
All right,
okay.
thank you.
Okay, so I think, okay.
There's no public comments. We don't have a closed session. Looking for that all
Move to
important.
adjourn.
Second.
Motion been made by Commissioner Dean, supported by Commissioner O'Hara. To adjourn. Any discussions? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Just still the agenda for finance, just the one item or?
Yeah, that's all we have.
Let's do it.
Yeah, you want to, well, we gotta wait for, we have to wait for anybody?
We gotta take a 30-minute lunch break.
We have to switch over, right?
We do. Well,
It's me.
it's Denise.
Yeah,
but-
Jody's
I
not
have
here.
to do my own job today. Joe's not doing it.
Jody's not doing it yet.
So you're doing it?